36 minutes after the hour, and I just have a quick update that I'm going to be providing here in this live stream. But of course, lessons over music would not be lessons over music unless we had actual music to play. So I'm back to an oldie here that I really enjoy listening to as I build on the conversation. Um, Rock with me. If you like the content, like it. If you know somebody that likes this kind of content, then be sure to share it with them. DJ Moss, it pays to be first. So salute to you. As always, appreciate the support. But I'm going to talk about here setting business goals and a credit tool. And this is very personal information. So it's real and genuine. It's authentic. It's my life struggle. But I will do the breakdown of this entire Credit Karma tool. So it's a that is to help you kind of gauge where you're at with your credit. Credit being one of the most important economic determinants for your status, wherever you are and whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. And so this will be a deep stream. Rock with me for around 10 minutes, and then I'll get into even more context for you all there at the 10-minute mark, or about 45 minutes to the hour. So lessons over music, setting business goals, credit tools, B1 Brother Moses. Let's get into it. First and foremost is the La Screener. First point of reference here is that there is differences, and you'll see differences between the TransUnion and the Equifax, and those differences matter. For one to say a 753 and the other to say a 745, you would have to ask yourself, well, what are they using to base their information on? For one to move up 1 point and the other to remain the same, that's something that you continue to watch for as well. Now, for me, this has been a heck of a journey, right? Just to get here. Because like many, a lot of these areas I just did not have active accounts with for the longest in my life. Mostly dependent upon just the basic number of accounts that I had. Many of them just credit cards. Savings was abysmal until you finally get into a good in a job for an extended period of time. Not really sure about how taxes add to it, but I think that's a service that they want to offer, as well as auto. Any of those factors can go into why one may be 753 and why the other is 745. But number one is able to break that there is a difference, and then being able to get the information that you might need as to why the difference. Another feature of this Credit Karma tool is that they have recommendations. You'll see the suggested offers drop down right here on the but then also there's a tab where you click and get other recommendations. Pretty user-friendly there, easy to scroll down and see some of the terms and conditions that are currently available to you at the credit listed. And then they also have a feature there for approval odds. So it looks like they also have some form of savings, ways that you can change and manage your profile settings. Looks like they're offering free tax filing, and then COVID-19 resources. As we see here, finding ways to bring in cash, that could be pretty important. Unemployment income, temporary or gig work, that seems like it's another one that can have some real benefits. It looks like they even have some information here to learn about job options, as well as a section for government benefits. Finally, some resources that will help you manage payments. Okay, so overall, I think the tool is pretty dope. It does have some features that are available there. We know that Credit Karma is one of those free ones to sign up for. And depending on where you're at and what you're looking for in life, I think they have a good load of different resources that are available. For me, I use the tool just to see which ones are going up by how much, because I've usually been the one where it just drops down exponentially. You lose 25 points because you needed it, like an emergency, and your credit lines were at such a point where the emergency consumes so much that even if you took 6 months to pay down that, it hurt your credit score for a while. And to be somebody who's 3 years out of the college and right into my corporate career, those big investments needed to be things such as couches and bunk beds and stuff like that, stoves. And so because of those things, that's a big chunk of a low credit score. It took a heck of a struggle. Salute. It took a heck of a struggle for anybody that can understand the rebuilding of a credit score, or even just the building for the first time, trying to do it again. To get to a 745 does take some financial discipline, and I would say multiple, what do you call them, users, account users. You have to have not only your own consistent payments, but if you're not the one who's in a position to get a house, then that won't show up on your credit. If you're not the one who's in the position to get those larger loans, then it won't show up. And every time you use that little bit of credit that you do have, when you have such a low credit score, let's say they gave you $1,000. Your first emergency or your first major purchase, let's say $600 for an oven, and then you're looking to pay it back, $100 a month, because that gives you a good 6-month time period. But that is 60% utilization, even on that $1,000 credit line. And because of that, that is 3 months until you've even paid it down to that 30% mark of where your credit score was hovering at less than 25 points, that they taxed you for that. And because they were taxing you for those 3 months, now look at the other areas that hits you. You were looking at trying to get a credit line increase in 6 months anyway, because they only gave you $1,000 to start with. And so you can out to almost 9 months or 3/4. If you're doing this same philosophy, not just for your personal, but for a business, imagine how devastating it is to finally be in a position like I'm showing you on the screen. Your small business can get some resources, get a loan if that's what you needed due to the coronavirus, get your name in that listing. If you want government benefits, those grants, I would say, if that's you, I don't want a loan. Well, what about a government grant? Whichever one that would apply to you, the resources do seem to be there. But let's say you do get that loan. Let's think about it, because YouTube is a business, and let me jump into the other screen right now without any delay. Let's jump into the other business thing, YouTube. And we're essentially building channels, which is content or web pages, websites. People eventually want to expand those into being connected to other payments, right? So Brother Ramil is one who says, I have multiple virtual businesses, some to which are like beats and things. So musicians, producers, people looking to make music or entertain, that need official contracts that say they have the right to stream this content. This beat here is for them. They got it. They got the right to stream it. They can earn money from it. We ain't tripping. They up front, boom. And so that transaction for that producer to be able to get it, that payment option, that tab, that link, that website they need to go to is another potential driver. And to have multiple of those is somebody who definitely needs Google Ads. And I like this as the second tool here, not just the Credit Karma, but I'll expand on how it helps the Credit Karma here. Because as you see, the Google Ads has a very easy one. They allowed me to select, what country I was in, or which geography or which market rather. And then this one was the big one. It had me answer a question on content category. And that really makes you think. Because if you have multiple, you may have a arts and entertainment that you're delivering on. You may have business and industrial if you have services or products that you're getting out there. Technology could even fall under computers or electronics, but it just depends on how you work at. Internet and telecommunications, if you're hosting Zoom channels or Zoom conferences, grassroots type campaigns for those small and what is it? Fractionalized. It's a fractionized market. What is it? What do they call it? When the market is scattered and it's people or potential customers, but they're everywhere. If you know that word, drop that in the link or make it a comment if you're catching this in the restream. Some are news. They deliver news. Now that one is a little bit more complicated, but online communities is the big one. I think that one encompasses a lot, right? So if you have that space that has musicians welcome, and that's where they're coming together, exchanging thoughts and all of that, then that's a good one. If you do have that space where it is grassroots campaigns, political activists, people with potentially, their payment solution is a GoFundMe. And because their payment solution is GoFundMe, then they're probably using social media to use and market that GoFundMe. But you want that link to still be shareable across all platforms. And when you're driving your AdSense strategically to certain things, when people are looking for certain things and you're trying to optimize that, I think online communities, which is the one I selected, you're building communities, you're building small networks, but they are fractured. They're all over the nation. And they are not just every month, every week subscribers for the most part. Many of them will be one-time users, but through that medium that you're helping as an affiliate. So this is the tool actually itself as it slides. And so the monthly page views. So for many of us who are just getting started in many of these residual income building streams, then what is a good goal? That is first and foremost, how do you determine your goal? So I love this section here because as you see here, monthly page views, you can be realistic and you can slide this bad boy all the way back to where you're mostly at, 50,000. And I think that's the minimum buy-in. That's just table stakes, 50,000 page views per month. Now, if that's where you're at, then they are able to give you your potential annual revenue. It's just an estimate, of course. It should only be used as a reference, but it's an easy tool to calculate when you are setting those goals. Again, Credit Karma is one heck of a tool with a number of resources there to help people get started if they're wherever they're at, or to take some of these resources and use them, make them applicable in their life right now during the coronavirus. It's a free tool there. Credit Karma showed some of the things that really drove it home for me. For me, I use it to monitor my score because I was always somebody whose score got punished so hard with the credit utilization. And just to see it go down 25 points and then go for month after month and only get an increase of 1 point still hurts. But I realized that is because I have not attached enough of these other revenue streams to my own name. What's more is that when you get those Google ads, there's other things that you can actually take advantage of, like AdSense and analytics. Analytics is definitely good for reporting, keeping your finances, your taxes, and all of that stuff straight. It gives you a clean dashboard of being able to see which one is driving the most. And then if there are areas that are driving faster than others, you can feed that bear, right? You can do more of that. If there are areas that are not driving as much, but you are really passionate about them, those pet projects, those small YouTube channels that are just getting started, but you want to make sure that they're straight, then analytics is your friend as you have those affiliates look to you for support. Now, my big bro in YouTube, Shay Duke Jackson, has to settle this. And there is no other way around it. I think the animosity that we still experience in our YouTube space, and one of the things that may be stalling is people's fear of conflict, black man to black man. Even worse, fear that slander from the black woman or that rejection that they get. And then probably the most one is that they hate dealing with their own sense of inadequacy. And because of that, I think we have a rift. that is preventing all of us from benefiting of the collective of what I'm talking about here, which is the growth in the Black YouTube space. And so I propose and send the link to my brother that be a 2020 Negro Manosphere Awards. And it has to be done, right? Because there was too much content delivered in 2019 to actually give that opportunity to vote, select, and choose a winner, because the win is not going to stop until the people finally get that vote. We can look at analytics and whose numbers did what. We know there's a lot of foul play involved, and I'm not saying wash your hands, say all of that stuff. Those undermining tactics just never happened. I'm not the one saying that, but I do know that competition needs a winner. And at some point, you have to be able to hit that reset button. And that is the bell. The 12 rounds are over, or the 12 months are over. 2019 is done. And what happened? Because what I've noticed is that after that last award, some people started fighting a little bit harder and competing a little bit harder. And that needs to be recognized as panelists who all came together with our own perspectives to that one nation. And so I made the form right here just to get it started, event registration, but let me walk it through. It's a good form, and another tool here. Keep this in mind that I'm only dropping the tools that I use and find beneficial to. This one is Google Forms, and it's a very streamlined user interface, which I like it, being able to select the pictures and everything when creating a survey or something for distribution across networks. And so here, the 2020 Negro Man, we'll just give it a title. Any of the additional information I said, voting should be available through Cinco de Mayo. The event will air on Patreon to be determined, and then the email or contact information for those who need more information. But what does the survey have? You know, it just has the picture of O'Shea Duke Jackson that I found. As I send it to him, he may want to update this section with anything. I know there's videos and things you can add every year. The name there of the person who's filling out the survey, their email. That's how we continue to grow the subscriber list there more organically. A viewer sense, make that easy, right? For the user, they can just click on the date there and allow it to drop down. So that's easy. They can just say when they've been a viewer since, and that gives you more analytics even there. Next, what shows have you viewed the most? We can go in and edit that field, and maybe it was the Sunday Rumble. So this is still real time and live, and they say, was I hired because I'm Black and I'm a token, or do I actually have the skills? So bring forward some of those skills and show project management and how that benefits the B1 network. Next is, who is your favorite panelist in 2019? That's open, right? You want them to be able to vote. That way we can streamline that and who really got the most independent votes without weighing it. And then once you have that, then we can give certain stories and different things like that and keep that engagement flowing, right? And then lastly, which group won best of 2019? And I just put two examples in there: Manosphere 3.0 panelists or the B1 network panelists. And I think that is the move towards reconciliation. No, we cannot reconcile with those individuals who was in those chats using that pedophilic language and still don't get they're wrong. That ain't gonna happen. He still got this, the Savior's Black men still got at least 2 live streams from B1 Brother Moses coming. They know that. But as of this point, we do have to have some form of reconciliation for 2019. And so I put both of those on there, but that's just, I don't run from conflict. And so it's there, put it out there, let the people decide. Once again, I did send this to my guy, O'Shea Duke Jackson, from the same hood there in Del Paso Heights. It is about business, and this is business right now. When you look at that one app that I showed, folks who have the ability to create content across multiple channels, talking about how many monthly views you're getting. And so if they do have those but communities already that are manosphere type spaces that are already up that they're linking to and getting views on, those numbers really start to add up. Not just the YouTube, not just the Instagram. They can have the conversation about, you know, the women on Instagram and their what is it called? OnlyFans. How do you make it actionable for men? What is the Black male investment opportunities that we should be considering right now? Brother Sanchez once said, you're going to make more YouTubers. Everybody wants to become a YouTuber. I thought about it long and hard and said, yep, and ain't nothing wrong with that as long as they get some of those tools that are necessary to be successful. The money management tools. What are your solutions? PayPal, Cash App, or are you dependent upon just that dollar sign there, which will try to hit you for 30%? No matter how much they take, it is a payment option that you would want to have available, but you have to start setting those goals. On YouTube, I know that that goal is probably 1,000 before you can get monetized, and that's just subscribers. That's still not speaking to the monthly page views. Here, we're looking at Google AdSense. And if you can get to 50, they're saying that's $5,000 a month in annual revenue. That is 50 per month page views, 5,000. This is only one source unless you have multiple sources needed to get to 50. So if you have 10 50s, then you're doing pretty damn good. 10 50s is about 500,000. I wish I could just stop on it. Doesn't look like I can do that. Oh, I can scroll it back, but that would take a little minute. The more I have to subtract, the less you see in your potential annual revenue. $50,000 a year moves a hell of a lot of black men into a space of middle class. If you want to say it, that national median income that they're talking about black households and saying they're lower. Well, let's talk cheddar. Next up, you can move this bad boy all the way to what a real nigga goals might be. A nigga might say, look, man, I actually do want to hit 1 million monthly page views. Every month, I want that million. And what that looks like is somebody who's getting in that ballpark of $100,000 a year. 6 figures is attainable, but it's up to us to be able to make it happen. That has been my presentation there. I did want to share some of the business tools. Credit Karma got the biggest one because that's the one that I use the mostly. And I don't want to sound like a hypocrite, like I got it all together. I am still in my journey. Don't knock me. Me and my family have come a long way just to get where we're at here today. We come from the deepest part of the world. And so things like a good credit score, nigga, who has a good credit score would have been the response. And so first and foremost, if that is an area of major concern, we can have that conversation about credit score. I know that there are people who are better equipped to talk about credit scores than I am. And that's why I try to stray away from that conversation for the most part. I would make one referral, one reference. If you really want to know about credit scores and how to start increasing a credit score and break that information down, then you're probably best off following somebody like Q Butter, adding him, subscribing to the Ziax Institute or Q Butter, QUEBUTTER, if you want more information and a breakdown of that level. But if you want to know about the tool, I've shared that a little bit here today, as well as information about that Google AdSense and how that is an opportunity. What more can I say? Oh, what I didn't do for those who are distracted by the music, I forgot to turn the music down and let it rock that way for a second. So let me look at this here and see who joined us in the chat there. Give a couple of shout outs. Feeling pretty good, like the conversation can continue. So rock with me if you will during our exec. I pick up my nostalgia a little bit. So when I talk about credit, I talk about it from the lens of the haves and the have-nots. I absolutely do. I don't run from the class conversation, just like I don't run from the race conversation. And so the haves and the have-nots is a hell of a conversation for one to have, especially when you can look at a map and show it from the perspective of what that map has. So my area where I grew up was a little bit different than the area where there was a little bit more opportunity. One of the areas where the best opportunities were is the Fearless 40s. And so the Fearless 40s was like almost like a gated community to us. That mug was so nice, but so far away. I tell you, in the design of a city, there is institutional racism, or there is that red line in the design. And so we are all just people living along a river at the of some mountain somewhere. This is the major river that divided us, was the American River, aptly named. And then once you get here, this bend is where the biggest concerns that we've always had was the massive flooding. And so that flooding and how that impacts the city, those flood zones and the value of that land always mattered. And that river, though, acts as a natural barrier between demographics that would then rely, upon transportation. You still need these major roads and I guess pathways in order to interact. So where are the jobs? Where are the big industry type jobs? Where are the military bases? Where are the places where mass employment can actually occur? Or where are the places where that private investment is actually hiring at? Where are they creating jobs? Okay. Keep that premise. Because water as a natural barrier and as something that is monitoring, measuring, and quantifying systemic oppression, or whatever you want to call it, redlining if you want the actual word, which is what we use. What you'll see is the haves and the have-nots in their generational development based on their part of town or their edge of that. And in my situation, what you see on the screen is essentially everything that included my upbringing. These are the potential barriers of where most of my time, if you could break down your time into a manner of minutes, 99% of those minutes were spent. 99% of those minutes were spent within what you see on this screen here. The majority of my time was limited based on those natural barriers, those rivers, and their water pathways, and the geographical distancing that created, or what I like to call systemic oppression. And so as you see here, I was able to zoom all the way in from a great distance without using nothing else. I zoom me in from outer space and I can still find myself exactly back home. This is Grant High School. A lot of NFL players, even in the years I was graduating, they attended this school, and this stadium didn't always look this good. But as you see here, the stadium itself is almost a bigger picture than the campus or the school, where the classroom held, where the learning went down. You have a section here, and then you have one here. This being the south or towards the south, this being north or towards the north. And this being my major contribution, or I was a part of the team that actually brought it, but a whole group of grassroots activists. And this wasn't always here either. The Greater Sacramento Urban League. This is a sobering moment, a humbling moment, because zooming out from my own personal upbringing, everything here was most likely lower to maybe middle class. And some of the battles that we've lost and some of the battles we've won have had nothing more or nothing less to do than our access, which is these roads here and the buses, and being able to determine which buses went where in our city. So if you live over there, you wanted to be able to work in a factory or something like that. You wanted some job security. You wanted something that a place where you can go where a check was cut. Then it was industrial places where you needed to be hired. Those who actually did receive that stable source of income and such, well, their circumstances or their houses were a little bit different. Now, these bad boys probably go for 600,000 right now, maybe more, but it's right across the river. These, in redlining terms or in Credit Karma terms, would be the spaces where you find more likelihood of a 750 credit score. But on the other side of that river, $580s, $590s, $600, $610. Single family unit, two mom and dad and their two kids households, big mama house, say the less. Wow. No, this bad boy is live. It says Del Paso's library is temporarily closed. One of those places where they said there was a church on every corner. Look at that. That's what they talking about. Taylor Street Baptist Church. Literally, Mount Zion Baptist Church. House of Prayer. True Holiness, a church on, look at the block sizes. Mama Marks Park, notorious. So let me zoom back out from my own individual circumstance and get back across that river again. Because if you did not receive one of those jobs that was in the industrial park, then you were probably relying upon, let's say, number 2, education. California State University, Sacramento, also a barrier to entry, not just geographic, but education was hard, man. I was taking 21 units at Morehouse College, 21 units every semester. It was a lot of reading. In fact, when I was buying books, the books themselves would come up to over $1,000. Or what they call Sacramento State, Sac State. And so that was the 4-year university. I wasn't able to get to that one, but there are other schools here. As you see, this is American River. There's also the American River College, where on our side of the river, since this is the major barrier, and now I just zoomed out for you to show you just how many of us were impacted due to redlining and to which severity. We're over here. And we needed access, bus routes, trains, anything that can get us from where we lived to one of these opportunity zones. And that's some of the battles that we fight when it's like public transportation. American River College was the one where I wanted to go. It was more on the side of the town, but I only really remembered American River College because it used to smack right here at the Foothill skating ring. I'm sorry, that was the skating ring like Cascade or Roll Bounce, if ATL or anything like that. That was our thing, man. And you can't knock us for it. But we used to go to Foothill skate. Wow, Scandi is temporarily closed. All right, so option A, do a job over there in the industrial park where they'll pay you about $40,000 a year. Option B, take your tail to school somewhere. If that doesn't work, then your next best bet as you come to cross that river is downtown. Well, what about those private jobs, those high-rise buildings? Maybe I can walk myself in there and be diversity token Negro talent hire. I'm going to go to that resource center that Brother Moses helped bring here, that Greater Sacramento Urban League. I'm going to get my resume sharp. I'm going to talk to some people there and get my interview prep done, mock interviews. I'm going to do all of that, and I am going to walk down here or take the train or the bus, however you got here, but I am going to get myself downtown to see if I can land me a walk-on job at one of these high-risers. That's how I know I can secure me a middle-class salary that would allow my credit score to grow up and all of that stuff. That's option C. If I can just get myself down here where private business is and walk on. I mean, and you had those people who were so determined, they was walking with that resume and they went to each and every one of these spaces. They didn't care if it was a residential apartment complex. They was walking on, give me a moment. They would go back up the street. And let me show you, when I say back the street, they would go back up this street, American River. I got you. Hey, sis. Back in the North Sacramento. Pass up the Korean churches. They still going. This is a long walk if you ain't got the transportation and you needed that bus to be running. This is a commitment. Oh my goodness. Even I got lost on that walk. Let me try that again. Good night. All right, so you needed to get downtown. You got all the way downtown and you tried to walk on to a couple of these places and get you one of those jobs that was going to secure you a middle-class income. You the man in your house. It's your job to protect your family, to have that protection from economic insecurity, to provide food, shelter, and all of those things. And right now, your credit score is the thing that is actually holding you back. And so you're like, oh my goodness, no excuses. I got to get it done. I'm going to give you another benefit. You got a car. No excuses. You got a car. So you can take the Capital City Freeway. You can cross over that American River. You are very committed. You're not new to this. You are true to this. So you get off that freeway and you get right back to the resource center where you needed to be in the first place. You're like, goodness, if I don't get to this resource center and update my resume, I may miss my window of opportunity speaking with this manager. So you walk by Calvi Christian Center, which I've mentioned many a times in my presentations. You're still on that main road. You get all the way back to, okay, there's my landmarker, Grant High School. So I know I'm in the right vicinity. There it is. Get all the way back to the resource center that's available for you. Go talk to your executive mentor. Go talk to the people who help you with your resume. Get that resume reworked, retyped up, and reprinted. That takes you about 30 minutes because there is sufficient crew that's available. Now you get back on the road. And you're not going to take the freeway this time because, you know, rush hour happens. You're going to take that main road all the way back downtown, past the Calvary Christian Center. Keep driving. Hopefully you got that car. You know, for sometimes that auto loan, they was trying to charge too much of an interest rate. And so you said, nah, I'd rather take the bus, or you was real proud and said, nah, I'd rather walk. North Adult Day Reporting Center. Not sure what that is. Maybe it's another resource center. Before I left, I know that they were considering something over here. And then the Sacramento Bee was, is it the Sacramento Bee? I think it might be one of the Sacramento Bee, and one of their affiliates were also over here. All right, now you're getting there. Because you know what? They need a big bridge. Because what do you have to do? You got to cross over that American River. You got to cross by all of those jobs that you applied for. You went there, but they shut you down. You could not get in at the factory, which was even lowballing your true potential. I remember my auntie used to stay right here in these projects. Dos Rios. Used to love it over there. Go by Loaves and Fishes, where all the homeless people go when they want a meal. That's an humbling experience. But once you get there, you've walked by all of that, or you've driven by all of that, and you found yourself now back in downtown, where now it is, I didn't get the walk-on job with none of those sky-rise buildings. And so I had to go to the apartment complexes and tell them, yeah, I can help manage property. And so now you're going to all of those places where they have apartment complexes, and you're putting in that same resume that you just got typed up 30 minutes ago at all of these spaces down here. Option C is exhausted. Did you try? You tried the industrial, you tried factory, you tried warehouse, you tried driving a forklift, you tried all of those different skills and certifications. And each time they told you no. Well, if you had skills, you said, well, why, sir, am I not getting this job? You said, well, I need you to be able to drive a forklift, have that certification. I need you to do X, Y, and Z. So you went back to that resource center and you got those certifications, however long they took. They told you needed education flat out. And so you went and you got the education you needed. They said, you need more experience. And so you went to the places that could offer you some experience, and those places shot you down. You did as much as you could faithfully and in good faith do. And all of that time, your credit score was not growing. At the most, it was either growing 1 point, but it wasn't growing enough for you to actually get that line of credit, that $5,000 card, that $10,000 line of credit. And so you probably needed a network, or you needed somebody with some access to an auntie or an uncle, somebody who could they could hire you if they needed. They could get you. You can fill out them W-2s and get a W-4, or fill out a W-4 and get a W-2 or W-9. Somebody knows what I'm talking about here. But let me zoom out, because it's not just a small area and those who are impacted in that little area, but the unemployment is something that impacts just Sacramento. But there are so many different places across this map where that same lesson applies. Nobody wants to talk about option D, which is stay in your own hood, and you got some marijuana and you definitely can grow that. You got your own products, and California legalized it in ways, and you can grow marijuana, but being a conglomerate, able to pay $100,000, having 50,000 monthly views to your website versus actually trying to sell that and the number of actual door-to-door transaction clients. I don't know, man. But I know in this system, there are some people who feel like they can't win for losing. that the credit game is rigged and it's against them, and that there may be some tools that are available. Where do they need to start when determining their business goals? You can't take it out. Credit is going to be important. It's hard to be B1 if your credit is not A1, because you're limited to spaces where you can just talk about it. And now that's my personal feeling about it. Definitely personal. I said it would be private, intimate, the information that I shared there, not just from an economic lens of even where I was raised, that situation, that circumstances, damn near big docs myself to the T. But I think it's valuable and I think it's worth it. Now what I need to do is actually find my StreamYard, excuse me, so I can close this thing on out. Tripping. Still love that website. So useful. So let's see here. What do we got? No, that's it. Is that the one? All right, we got that joint going. But it's still not the one I need. Look, if I can't go in and close this thing out, I'm going to keep the conversation rolling, man. There's different layers and depths to this thing that we can still keep talking about when it comes to credit. Haven't even actually shared my journey of how I actually got there to the 750. What were some of the steps that I took? What worked and what didn't work? Number of credit lines. That information is vital, especially for somebody working to get to the 750. And I'm not bragging and boasting. That is still not what we need to actually get 10 income streams kicked off and running concurrently, simultaneously adding to economic wealth, man. You don't want to work forever, but until you find something that creates the alternative to the salary you receive, then the salary that you receive is the one that you needed right then. And as you're continuing to build up those revenue streams that give you six figures, hey, man, let's keep sharing those tools. I'm going to have to just start closing stuff because I can't even find my screen up right now. That's me. Love this one. This is just my Instagram. Try to use it for motivation, understanding where I've been in the world and what it takes to actually get back there. So y'all can look at that. I think I may have stopped that one, but let's see. Cut that. That one. What do we got here? Get over here. All right, man. All right, so salute Charze, salute I Am Pretty Gangster, George Thompson, peace and love. Midtown Pookie, peace and love. Chaos Rain, salute. Art Nostal, man, we got to do a build, man. I need some art too. So not just to watch it. I love that. I don't really be chatting a lot when I'm in there because I love the art, but it allows me to multifunction, multitask at the same time. That's why I watch your channel, Art Nostal TV, for those in the restream. Don Cato, salute. For my bearing, where's Arco Arena? Oh, I could have showed you that Sleep Train Amphitheater and all of that. Great stories there too. So on my next live stream, I'll jump right into that one. G, that is what's up. They pass out that $2,000 stimulus and I'm getting my credit score up. That is right. A $2,000 stimulus, in the grand scheme of things, does not support wealth creation model. when you're looking at shifting income and finding an avenue. Let me make sure that I'm not echoing. Am I echoing, Charze? Somebody let me know there. And then let me see here. I got that one, but I'm still not certain that that's the right one. Anyway, in any event, when you're looking at income shifting strategies. Now, I heard this on, I believe, was it the Dagger Squad, my econ. I went to, when you're trying to build your credit and you don't know where to go, sometimes you go to other people, and it's not always just a YouTube stream. But I did find it via YouTube. I am not going to lie. I found it directly via YouTube. I actually got up off of my ass and went to one of those conferences that they were holding, and the information that I was able to retain from it. It was a great event, by the way, held in the bottom of a church, like one of those places where if you the first time joining the church and they have that new member fellowship, and they serve chicken and all of that. It was in one of those type of rooms. So definitely somebody in the grassroots of building out these type of communities and using their virtual presence in order to market that growth. And so for them, it was in a small church. And the key takeaway for me was that income shifting strategy. And they talked around, the tax structure, how many different exemptions you're claiming, anything like that. They went in depth with that information. And I thought it was pretty handy there and appropriate. It was their tool, as well as they had some other credit building techniques that they were able to share. They had some tools that they shared. And with that, I took the income shifting. Yeah, that's right. I took that one because I was in a space of saying, well, look, this is where I'm invested at now, and this is what its rate of return is. And when I do the math on the rate of return on what I'm currently invested in, by the time I get to that $100,000 emergency plan that could afford me, if you all were fired, how long could you and your family survive with your current level of expenses for, let's say, 6 months? And what that actually cost, I was like, wow. So in order for me to even have the emergency, which was just number one, 6 months of an emergency reserve in liquid assets or cash, just based off of my bills, that was already like 25, damn near $30,000 that I needed. And I'm still talking about somebody who's only fresh out of college, just now learning some of these tools. I'm like, $30,000 put away. That's big, because up until this point, I had been operating on the thing that a man is supposed to do is provide food and shelter. Food is the smaller bill. Shelter is the one that requires a credit score if you want to get the true benefit of having that home. And in order to get that, I was under that school that said, where you're going to need 20% down payment up front, right? And so with that information, it was like, all right, so how much does a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom actually cost? And then you find out that that's going to be based on geography. Right there in Del Paso Heights, that 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom was not even in that area. You had to get it from somebody who had it built, because the rest of those homes were military style, right? So they were at most 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. All right. Where I lived in those redlined areas, now they think we can only have the conversation and say it's not fair. No, we have the conversation from the lens of economics. We have the conversation and tell you why in depth that credit score matters. Because when you're in that red zoned area, then your borrowing costs are higher. Your financing charges are going to be higher. What they take from you in order to give you that same access to capital is so much higher that your time that you need investing in just this one, which is the house, just the mortgage, which they say has a benefit of developing equity, just to get to that one asset, they said 20% down. And so $180,000 home, no matter how you look at that, $180,000 home means that what they're telling you is you need $36,000 in liquid savings right there available. And for African Americans, a savings rate of return was less than 1%. Now, if anybody has a calculator available to them, try to find out how long it would take earning 1% interest per year on, let's say I did have $1,000 that I had ready to save. No, let's use their exact stimulus, $1,200. No, I'm a married man. Let's give the highest benefit of the doubt. Married with those same two children. So keep it real, keep it private. Married with two children was $3,500 in savings. I'll give you that one. Now, do what is 1% of that, and that is your annual return. And again, the savings return was not even that 1%. And they were telling us that we need 20% down savings. Now, it wasn't the hard one, because if you didn't want that one, they did have the FHA loan available. But what was that FHA loan going to do? Keep your ass in the red-lined housing. If you needed government assistance for anything, Section 8 or something like that, the housing projects that my auntie lived in, which were across the river, but still projects, if you needed government assistance or one of them Section 8 homes that put you somewhere else, then you were most likely going to end up back in that red zoned space. And that's not just social and not just cultural, it's economics. And being from someone who is disenfranchised economically and working my way to where my number one aims are still to protect my damn, I'll say it as English as I can. I protect my wife. She does what's in the best interest of these kids. I got to fight battles every day as we go to and fro with the microaggressions that exist, as well as those systemic issues that exist. Now, I was fortunate enough in the vetting process of who I wanted to be with. And then by sheer coincidence, I did find a woman who would complement when it came to intergenerational wealth. A compliment, not a detriment. Somebody who understood the value of education as well, and who has what, you know, toxic loans. And then there's loans that for the most part, hey, they're table stakes. For me, I do come from that lane that says education or having that one degree is table stakes. I'm from that lane that says, look, if you went to those factories, once you graduated high school, you're 18 years old, 17 maybe, or 18, maybe 19. If you know, something happened in your life events happen. Maybe you only got that GED, but whatever it was, you went to the resource center and got the GED. Wherever it was, you were in a position where you needed money. And your parents weren't able to pay that number one thing, which is shelter. Everybody gonna have to go through that. It's just the thing. And then number two, the men in your community had not created a surplus of entrepreneurship. Their surplus of entrepreneurship had been shut down by the 1994 crime bill. Their sources of intergenerational wealth creation through entrepreneurship and limited liability companies, all of the ways to which they can employ you to be a runner, to be a mule, a distributor, to be the Uber for weed in Northern California, all of those avenues had been shut down. I mean, of course, now that you had been locked up for it and you're not in a position to grow your wealth as a business, your own business, now it seems like it's free reign. Now they got legal precedents for people to start full blown out businesses. They got little apps on your phone where you can order exactly what I just said. I'm so dead ass. I am so dead ass when it comes to that. But since 1994, those folks who had been in that red zoned area, their only other option D was entrepreneurship. And the most attractive form of entrepreneurship in Northern California, especially in the timeline that I'm giving, the most attractive one was marijuana. Everybody couldn't be a dope boy though. And that culture was not one that guaranteed the safety or the protection of your family. So being a grown man dope boy was just not in the repertoire unless you had moved yourself and your family into a position of making that legit. Everybody ain't Snoop Dogg. Everybody ain't Wiz Khalifa and can have their own strain that is legit sold as a product that can help generate their 50,000 views every month. But wherever you are in your goals, that information is relevant. It's not just anecdotal. It is all about the creation of products and services, the evaluation of alternatives, A, B, C, and D, the evaluation of geography. Where is your business located? Where is your target audience? Are you in the red zoned area as an audience, or are you speaking into the corporate area? Are you ready for your goal setting to increase. For some of us, we are content with being on the American River side, and we can live there 99% of our time. We do not have to travel outside of the blocks we live in, because our entrepreneurial dreams would only feel muted and suppressed if every day we had to cross that river and go to work at somebody else's factory. It would be something in us that would die every day if we had to work inside of one of those cubicle spaces downtown. For many, they could probably do exceedingly well as a manager of any of those apartment complexes downtown. But that part of them that still fights and says, I want to own my own apartment complex, would never be realized economic timeline that is reality if they continue to work at that small space. They could work in that downtown space and try to save it through a 401k. And even then, with somebody else matching you percent for percent, they are giving you they say that's good, but as an income revenue driving force, in order for you to get to $30,000 in savings, which was just for your emergency, which came first, that's still in the 401k. That isn't even yours yet. That's something for retirement where they're going to penalize that. So even when you do get that number to read $30,000, you're still not there yet, because the minute you withdraw it, they're going to tax that. So you're still not at your emergency. Again, that's 401k. That's not liquid assets. So you're still not in emergency territory. When I say emergency, I'm talking grandma who said, you better have it rolled up in a cereal box somewhere in your freezer for hard times, somewhere buried in the back of a TV somewhere, just stashes and stashes of money, cash. Now, Big Mama didn't trust them banks. That's what Big Mama said. Credit score who? Big Mama said her, yeah, for real. Big Mama was in cash transactions. All of those things that influence my perspective here as saying entrepreneurship is something that cannot be muted or suppressed within somebody. Craig Harper says 25% penalty. 25% penalty means you got to get at least $39,000 matched in your 401k. $9,000, yet something like that. Probably a little more there. $39,000 before you're even in the clear for that 30. So however much they're matching, you got to work for that company for 2 years of a dedication, even if your strategic move is, I just want to build up my 401k to where I can borrow against it. Okay, well, my goal is I need to borrow X amount of dollars. What is that? Nah, that's not where you're at. You're just talking about the development of your emergency fund, that protection economic for you and your family. You have this much in bills. You need 6 months of that. How much is that going to cost you? How much do you need saved? Liquid asset cash in the back of a drawer. Don't dismiss it and say, well, no, we really don't have emergencies that big. Don't start writing off some of those things like a car and saying, oh, I just wouldn't pay my car note. Although that is very niggish, but it would fuck you up in the long run, because your credit that you have been working on gets smacked again for missed payments. Those credit cards, that one that only gave $1,000, you have to include that payment or that bill in there. Or what did you do? You set your other business streams back. Your credit now just got dinged. And once you go down 25 points, I started this off by telling you that how hard it was to grow. And after all of this time, it grew 1 point only on one and not even on the other. They'll knock you down 25 and it takes a while to get it back up 1 point. And that was just in credit utilization in the event of an emergency for a purchase. That's not even missing a payment. You're still making all of your payments consistently. 99, 100% of your payments are going in on time, every time. To all of the people who report it, all of those payments are going in all the time, every time. But if you actually use more than 30% of your credit, it will hit you, and it can hit you sometimes big. even more so than the fact of the benefit of make all of my payments. They don't give a fuck. I make all of my payments on time. I don't give a bit. If you don't make your payments on time, then they'll ding you even harder. They'll ding the hell out of you. But when it comes down to the thing that dings you is if I actually even use that credit line, then I get dinged. Why is that important? Again, they said 20% for your next big thing as a man is the home ownership. And they said 20% down. And in our situation, that is $180,000 home, which is a bedroom, 2 bathroom. That is a damn good deal. But 30% of 180,000, well, 18 times 3 is $54,000. All right, fuck that. I can't do 30%. Let's do 20%. 20% of 180,000. 18 times 2 is $36,000. Again, you can try to save all you want. Saving, that's probably a 1% return. But at some point, you're going to need multiple income streams that are driving themselves. And if you ever want to get into a position of independence to where that one space that's paying your salary, whether it was downtown in the sky rises, downtown in the apartment complex, or working in somebody else's factory, if you ever want to move in your own spaces, then there's costs to be the boss. Entrepreneurship costs. And one of those costs is credit, your credit score. No way around it, your credit score. But this is my personal credit score. What does that have to do with my business? Well, let me ask you this. How long has it been since you started that next business venture? So it's the young one, all right? So you got your trust established, you got your banking, your payment methods, all of those are established, they're linked. You got your website, you got your parent website, you got a smaller website, you're good. Where are you at? Is it one business with one website with that website is being marketed by multiple social media channels? So you have a Facebook that can drive to it, you have an Instagram that can drive to it, and you can also have some content that drive to that website. Are you retail, for example, drop shipping, and you have that merchandise or buy merchandise, that icon is also the payment tab also connected to it? Is that where you're at? Does your social media, your Facebook, does it to payment application? So, you know, for those folks who have that GoFundMe, does it drive right to a payment methodology, or is it driving to a product that you're selling, or a service that you're willing to provide? Where are you at with it? And then each of those, is it one product, or are they all their own limited liability company in themselves? All right, much to do about nothing, but those are ideas of what is a residual income stream. Okay, so some of the tools that I use, Credit Karma. I'm also looking at that next one, which is AdSense. Google AdSense, Google, and there's no way around it. Google is going to be a predominant player, just like Amazon, if you are drop shipping, Facebook, social media, and all of those other ones. But Google, and having that analytics and AdSense, everything drive through that, and seeing what the potential earnings are, but being clear on what does it take to get there. That is a goal. And whatever your goals might be, I want to get to, you know, 100 views on my website this month. I want 100 more. Then that could be a very realistic goal for people who aren't even getting 100 views on their website, but yet that is their business. 1,000 could be somebody's, but they started it off at 50,000 monthly views. If that's table stakes, then B Network, we got work to do, and salute. Now, let me see what happens if I do this. I think this should actually end it. And if it does, then that's all I got and I am out. And if it doesn't, then you'll see me still talking, even though I tried to end it.